Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. Today, I intend to honor the death of a guy who was notorious for having a, among other things, really bad mustache. I have decided I would be looking over Umberto Eco's 14 points. 14 common features of fascist regimes. I'll just mention them in bullet points, and then maybe expand a bit on each of them. This is not just one take; it's also first take. I've seen them already. I have somewhat of an idea of what I want to say about each of them, but I haven't really written anything down. So this is unscripted. I I think I'm. You could argue I have some mental notes, but that's about it. Anyway, let's get started. Point number one, the cult of tradition. Yeah, this is meant to imply that the Nazis always look to the past and say at some arbitrary point in the past, things were better. And things were better across the board. So not just one thing in particular. And yeah, Nazis definitely do that. It's not wrong in and of itself to look at parts from the past or even at traditions and see that they have some merit. However, those merits have to be reasoned and reassessed, and their validity needs to be rejustified every once in a while. I'll say maybe once a generation, maybe once every 5 or 10 years, depending on what the needs of the population are. But still, having just arbitrarily tradition good, or one particular section of history good, and that's it. Well, yeah, that's definitely fascistic. Point number two: the rejection of modernism. This one is not really as straightforward, because fascism itself is actually kind of a modernist philosophy, in the sense that it defines one particular avenue according to which society develops, and seeks to improve society based on that particular avenue of development. So it doesn't really reject modernism per se. If anything, it rejects postmodernism and ironic art in it, and things like that. What it is in fact rejecting is a specific kind of modernism. It rejects the idea of, as the supplemental notes on this point here say, the Enlightenment, the idea that all people have inalienable rights, because in their minds certain people aren't even actually people. Point number three: the cult of action for action's sake. This is a little more. I think this might have been truer when these 14 points were first written down in Eco's essay Earth Fascism from 1995. But right now they are not necessarily true, because most modern fascistic or fascist adjacent organizations have sprung up not necessarily through direct action, but more through various means of communication, through popularizing various memes and various jokes, and then using jokes, and being insulting, and using humor to sort of cover that. Whether or not that still counts as action, I leave up to you. However, the point stands. The modern fascism is a bit more deliberate than it was a while back ago. Disagreement is treason. Point number four. That is true of pretty much any totalitarian government, regardless of whether or not they were fascist. To some extent, it was even true. To some extent, it's even true about the countries we would call liberal democracies. The difference comes from where the disagreement stems from, and also how that disagreement is handled. Is it discussed? Is it dismissed? Is it is it tried? There is while it seems initially straightforward, there is actually some level of nuance here, but only some. Moving on, point number 5, fear of difference. Well, yeah, obviously. Point number 6, appeal to social frustration. Yes, very much so. A lot of people who feel jaded by modern society see a lot of its constructs as means by which see the means of modern society, not for their own purposes, but for the effect they've had on their lives. The forest spotter who can't see his parents who can't see his kids anymore will not see that as the family courts doing their job and providing the best for their kids. He will see them as being biased towards him, and any fascist who would try to recruit that guy would tell him that he's right to think that way. Same for all the incels who think that who think that they should be entitled to sexual activity, or to failed or bankrupted former millionaires, who think that some mechanism within the stock market or within the general economy has screwed them over specifically. Bringing them into their fold and showing them that they are right and that society does screw them over is a major part of all fascist narratives. Point number 7, the obsession with a plot. I already mentioned in my previous point that fascists generally have a narrative, and when we look at that, Echo proved me right. Keep in mind point number 2, where I said that fascism is a modernist ideology, and modernist ideologies always follow some kind of plot, some kind of directive. That is also true for fascism, as in it tries to bring a particular people, a particular country, towards some imagined greater destiny. Point number 8, the enemy is both strong and weak. This one is a little more complicated, because pretty much everyone can borrow language that would result to similar ends. The enemy poses a threat to us, meaning the enemy is strong, but the enemy can also be defeated, meaning the enemy is weak in a sense. What really differentiates the fascist approach to this particular point versus the approach someone else would make is that the enemy has strength that fascists see as unwarranted or unmerited. Mainly some form of soft power or legal protection that the fascists see as the minority as being granted to the minority for no reason. Keep in mind what I said a little bit earlier about social frustration. This also feeds into that, and therefore there is a strong temptation to remove that in order to sort of level the playing field. Point number 9. Pacifism is trafficking with the enemy. There are various cases where pacifism really is trafficking with the enemy. Cough, Russia-Ukraine. Cough. But in general, that is a general opinion that fascists hold. Keep in mind, cult of action for action's sake. So a fascist will necessarily want to act in a given direction. A given direction that promotes a specific vision of strength, and therefore anything that would frustrate, anything that would derail that particular vision of strength is is an enemy to the fascist, and therefore it is trafficking with the enemy. It is collaboration aimed at subverting their ideals. Point number 10, contempt for the weak. Again, that really depends on how you define the weak. But for the most part, fascists do generally hold on to that, even though they have also denied merits by various people who they arbitrarily defined as weak, even though they would have by other merits called themselves as strong. Keep in mind the 1938 Nobel Prize. It was technically a joint research paper by Otto Hahn and Lise Meitner, a German and a German Jewish researcher respectively. However, only Otto Hahn received the award, whereas Lise Meitner was artificially reduced to his research assistant, that kind of thing. Yeah. Next up, point number 11, everyone is educated to become a hero. This wording is unfortunately a little bit ambiguous, because heroism can take on a lot of different forms. You can be a hero in the medical field, a hero in the in the research field. You can maybe just be the best worker you can your company can have, and that also makes you to some extent a hero if you do it consistently over a long enough time. So what this point actually intends to say is that fascism peddles a particular myth about heroism. The myth of the hero who acts for the sake of action, for whom the only defining criteria are strength and obedience, maybe diligence. one who relentlessly furthers whatever plot the fascists have. You can very much be a hero outside of that, and the fascists will deny your heroism. Just saying. Point number 12, machismo and weaponry. Very much so. Keep in mind, again, point number 3, action for action's sake. I may have been a little bit critical about it, but it does hold true in many other points and in many other ways in which fascism generally manifests. Among them, this cult of machismo and weaponry, and the idea of that you always have to demonstrate your strength, and always have to seek out means through which to demonstrate your strength. It's and that means not only that do you glorify the what would make a man strong under this system, but you also disdain anyone who doesn't have that same physical or mental capacity for violence and conquest, bringing them at least one rung lower on the societal ladder. Also, sorry for the lighting change. I'm on natural light. Things happen. Point number 13: selective populism. You don't need me to tell me that. Basically every algorithm, every time you've interacted with some internet algorithm, you have seen the stories about various people watching certain things and then getting directed towards more aggressive things. People are directly being told to seek out and being told to seek out various specific sources of information, and to only trust a particular bubble of information. Don't go beyond that, because that lies to you. Go to your bubble. That is where you need to be. You only go outside of it when you need to persuade the normies or shit like that. And finally, Point number 14. Earth fascism speaks newspeak. Yes. Yes, that is very much so. I think I've already mentioned incels at point 6, and they are very well known for having their own distinctive lingo and vocabulary. And you'll find that with other associated organizations. You'll find that with other far-right organizations as well, such as the Ku Klux Klan. They very much have to protect who they are, because the enemy might be strong, but the enemy is also weak. So directed action will do so. And the best way to cover that action so that your enemy doesn't discover you is to code it in various different forms of expression. Keep in mind also something I said at a little bit at point 3, namely that bigotry, racism, sexism, and general chauvinism are coded in jokes. This is how they do it. This is how they mask their language in order to make themselves more palatable to a general audience. And yeah, those were the 14 points and my opinions thereof. I hope this video brought you something. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, then please leave a like, maybe even share this video wherever you think other people will like it as well. If you have anything you'd like to add to what it is I just said, the comment section awaits your input. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. Ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. I also have a main channel where I talk about more bookish and literature topics, which I will also link in the description down below. Right past my social media should you be interested in that. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.